Is there any moment where you began to ask yourself, what do humans get from food? To explain, heterotrophs such as human beings obtain energy and raw materials from food. These are important for cell growth, cell division, metabolism, repair, and maintenance of the body. Nutrients can be classified as either organic nutrients or those that contain carbon, such as carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, and nucleic acids, or inorganic nutrients or those that do not contain carbon, such as water and mineral salt. What do humans get from food again? And this report will explain you one of them: carbohydrates.
Objectives. The aim of this presentation is to first discuss the definition of carbohydrates. Second, identify the different classifications of carbohydrates. Third, determine the structure and function of carbohydrates. And lastly, present the different examples of carbohydrates.
So what are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are organic compounds made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Carbohydrates or carbs are sugar molecules. Along with proteins and fats, carbohydrates are one of the three main nutrients found in foods and drinks. Your body breaks down carbohydrates into glucose. Glucose or blood sugar is the main source of energy for your body's cells, tissues, and organs.
Structure of carbohydrates. How are carbohydrates formed? Carbohydrates are chain-like molecules called polymers, made from repeating units like monomers. Polymers can be formed from covalently bonded monomers, much like a single structure can be made out of repeated building blocks linked into each other. These monomers called monosaccharides from covalent bonds when one monomer loses a hydroxyl group and the other loses a hydrogen atom in dehydration or condensation reactions, forming disaccharides. This reaction requires energy to occur. The bond formed is called a glycosidic linkage. So what are the classification of carbohydrates? First are monosaccharide. The structure of monosaccharide is that it contains a carbonyl group and may be classified as an aldose or ketose depending on the position. May have 3 to 7 carbons in the skeleton. May be arranged in a linear form when solid and is converted into a ring form in aqueous solution. The next one is disaccharides. The structure of disaccharides is the sugar formed when two monosaccharides are joined by glycosidic linkage. The third and last classification of carbohydrates, it is polysaccharide. The structure of polysaccharide forms when hundreds to thousands of monosaccharides are joined by glycosidic linkage, and it is seen in this slide.
Now for the functions of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are usually good sources of raw material for other organic molecules and energy. 1 gram of carbohydrates provides 4 food calories or 16 kilojoules of energy. In the human diet, carbohydrates mainly come from plants, although they are found in all organisms. One of the primary functions of carbohydrates is to provide your body with energy. Your cells convert carbohydrates into the fuel molecule called ATP or adenosine triphosphate through a process called cellular respiration. They also provide stored energy. If your body has enough glucose to fulfill its current needs, excess glucose can be stored for later use. This stored form of glucose is called glycogen and is primarily found in the liver and muscle. Carbohydrates help preserve muscle. Glycogen storage is just one of the several ways your body makes sure it has enough glucose for all its functions. When glucose from carbohydrates is lacking, muscle can also be broken down into amino acids and converted into glucose or other compounds to generate energy. Carbohydrates promotes digestive health. Unlike sugars and starches, dietary fiber is not broken down into glucose. Instead, this type of carbohydrates passes through the body undigested. It can be categorized into two main types of fiber: soluble and insoluble. Carbohydrates also influence your heart health and diabetes. Certainly, eating excessive amounts of refined carbs is detrimental to your heart and may increase your risk of diabetes. Carbohydrates are also providing benefits depending on its classification. On monosaccharides, major cellular nutrients are the functions of carbohydrates, and they often incorporated into more complex carbohydrates. In disaccharides, they are energy source and sweetener and dietary component. And in polysaccharides, they are storage material for important monosaccharides and structural mechanisms for the cell or the entire organisms. Now, are carbohydrates necessary for these functions? Well, the body has alternative ways to provide energy and preserve muscle during starvation or very low carb diets.
As we embark on a captivating exploration of the diverse world of carbohydrates, we will realize that carbohydrates are not just sugars. They are a family of compounds with intricate structures and vital roles. In this report, we will delve into the classification of carbohydrates, understanding the nuances that define these essential biomolecules. Monosaccharides are the simplest form of carbohydrates, often referred to as simple sugars. They are the basic building blocks of more complex carbohydrates like disaccharides and polysaccharides. Since monosaccharides consist of a single sugar molecule, it cannot be further hydrolyzed into smaller sugar units. Monosaccharides have a general molecular formula, CH2ON, where N is the number of carbon atoms. Based on the number of carbon atoms, monosaccharides are commonly classified as trioses, which contains 3 carbon atoms, tetroses, which contains 4, pentoses, which contains 5, hexoses, which contains 6, and heptoses, which contains 7. Monosaccharides can also be categorized as aldoses or ketoses, depending on the presence of an aldehyde or ketone functional group. Monosaccharides, particularly glucose, serve as a primary source of energy in cellular processes. They also contribute to the structure of biomolecules like nucleic acid and glycoproteins. Monosaccharides play a crucial role in cellular recognition and communication. Some examples of monosaccharides are glucose, which is the most abundant monosaccharide found in nature and is the primary energy source for many organisms. It can be in the form of dextrose, blood sugar, and grape sugar. Next is fructose, which can be found in fruits and honey. It is a common natural sweetener. And the galactose, which is a component of lactose, the sugar present in milk. In summary, monosaccharides with their simple yet essential structure play critical roles in energy metabolism, structural composition, and cellular communication. They can be linked together through glycosidic bonds to form more complex carbohydrates like disaccharides and polysaccharides. Understanding these building blocks provides insight into the foundational aspects of carbohydrate biology.
Let us now discuss the second classification of carbohydrates, which is disaccharide. So, a disaccharide is the sugar formed when 2 monosaccharides are joined by glycosidic linkage. In this process, the hydroxyl group of one monosaccharide combines with the hydrogen of another monosaccharide through a covalent bond, releasing a molecule of water. The covalent bond formed between 2 sugar molecules is known as a glycosidic bond. A glycosidic bond connects 2 sugar molecules by joining specific carbon and hydroxyl groups, playing a crucial role in forming disaccharides and complex carbohydrates. We can see here the structure of disaccharide, which is much similar to monosaccharide. They also consist of multiple hydroxyl groups and a functional group that could be an aldehyde or a ketone. Here are the 2 classifications of disaccharides. Disaccharides can be classified into 2 groups based on their ability to undergo oxidation-reduction reactions. First is reducing sugar. Reducing sugar are carbohydrates that can donate electrons to other molecules, typically through a free aldehyde or ketone functional group. Examples include glucose and fructose. Second is non-reducing sugar. It is carbohydrates lack functional groups and cannot undergo the same reaction. Sucrose is a common example of it. Next are the three examples of disaccharides. Some common examples of disaccharides are first, sucrose or table sugar. It is found in fruits, vegetables, and processed foods. So sucrose is composed of glucose and fructose molecules. It is commonly found in fruits and vegetables, providing a natural sweet taste. Second is lactose or milk sugar. It is present in milk and dairy products. So this is a disaccharide consisting of glucose and galactose. It is the sugar naturally present in milk and dairy products. Third and lastly is maltose or malt sugar, formed during the breakdown of starch and found in germinating grains and beer. So it is composed of two glucose molecules linked together. This sugar is generated during the breakdown of starch, a complex carbohydrate found in grains and alcohol. Then lastly are the function. Disaccharides serves various functions in living organisms. First, in energy source. Disaccharides like sucrose and lactose are broken down into simpler sugar during digestion, providing a quick and efficient source of energy for the body. Second is sweetener. Many disaccharides such as sucrose or table sugar contribute sweetness to foods and beverages, enhancing flavor and palatability. Third and lastly is dietary component. Disaccharides plays a crucial role in a balanced diet, providing sugars that the body can use for energy and metabolic processes. They are often found in natural sources like fruits and dairy products.
Polysaccharides or polycarbohydrates are the most abundant carbohydrates found in food. They are long-chain polymeric carbohydrates composed of monosaccharide units bound together by glycosidic linkages. This carbohydrate can react with water using amylase enzymes as catalyst, which produces constituent sugars. There are two types of polysaccharide. First is homopolysaccharide. It is a polysaccharide that contains the same type of monosaccharide. Some of the important homopolysaccharides are glycogen, cellulose, starch, and inulin. Next is the heteropolysaccharides. Heteropolysaccharide is a polysaccharide that contains different types of monosaccharide. Some of the important heteropolysaccharides are hyaluronic acid, heparin, chondroitin 4-sulfate, and gamma-globulin. Proceeding to its function, the polysaccharides serve as a structural organization in animals and plants. Other functions of polysaccharides include storing energy in organisms, allowing changes in the concentration gradient which influences the uptake of nutrients and water by the cells, and lastly, they provide support to the cells. Here are three examples of polysaccharide. Number 1 is starch. It is the main storage carbohydrate of plants and is made up of alpha-glucose subunits. It contains two types of polymers which are amylose and amylopectin. Amylose is water-soluble and unbranched, while amylopectin is water-insoluble and branched. Second example is cellulose. Cellulose is the main structural component of the plant cell wall. It is exclusively present in plants, and cellulose is the most abundant organic compound of the plant kingdom. It is made up of beta-glucose subunits that are joined by 1 to 4 glycosidic bonds. Glycogen is also known as animal starch. It is stored in the liver, muscle, and brain. When the body requires energy, glycogen is broken down to glucose by a process called glycogenolysis.
Now, let's have an examples of carbohydrates according on its classification. In monosaccharides, we have glucose, fructose, and galactose. In disaccharides, we have sucrose, lactose, and maltose. And in polysaccharides, we have starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Let's have a further explanation of the said examples. Examples of monosaccharides. Glucose. Glucose is a hexose sugar, meaning it has 6 carbon atoms. It is a primary source of energy for living organisms and is commonly referred to as blood sugar. Glucose is produced during photosynthesis in plants and is utilized in cellular respiration to generate ATP in animals. Next is fructose. Fructose is another hexose sugar and is commonly found in fruits and honey. It has the same chemical formula as glucose but has a different structural arrangement. Fructose is often used as a sweetener in the food industry and is metabolized in the liver. Next is galactose. Galactose is also a hexose sugar and is found in milk and dairy products. It is less sweet than glucose and fructose. In the body, galactose is converted into glucose and utilized for energy production. Now let's have an example of disaccharides. First is sucrose. It is commonly found in sugarcane, sugar beets, and is the sugar we use in our daily lives. Sucrose is often referred to as stable sugar. It is broken down into its constituent monosaccharides, glucose and fructose, during digestion, and these are then absorbed by the body for energy. Next is lactose. It is sugar found in milk and dairy products. Lactose is broken down by the enzyme lactase in the digestive system to its monosaccharide components, which can be absorbed and used for energy. Last is maltose. It is produced during the digestion of starch and is found in germinating grains. Example is barley, leading to its presence in malted foods and beverages. Maltose is often referred to as malt salt. Lastly, polysaccharides. Starch. It is a common storage form of carbohydrates in plants found in seeds, tubers, and roots. Glycogen. It is a primary storage form of glucose in animals and is mainly found in the liver and muscles. Glycogen serves as a readily available energy reserve in animals. And last, cellulose. It is the main structural component of plant cell walls. Cellulose provides strength and rigidity to plant cell walls.
So again, we are Group 7 from STEM 12 Aldrin, presenting carbohydrates. Have a great day.